are. Welcome back to my channel. I am so glad you're here. So, of course, welcome if you are new, and welcome back if you've been here already hanging out with me for a while. So we, as you can see, are going to be talking about Real Housewives of New Jersey. Now, I'm not really sure how many people are actually really watching this as intently as they used to in the past. I've heard quite a bit of chatter back and forth, whether the show was not doing that well, people are not as interested, but there are still a few of us that are and find some kind of fun and joy at some of the shenanigans that does go on. Now, as you all know, that we are definitely in a time frame where I think all of the Real Housewives franchises are getting looked at for different reasons or other, whether they are continuing with bringing in the drama enough for people to be interested, whether the stories are being curated and, and to come to be about something when they really are not. It's so many things going on when it comes to the situation that is Real Housewives of New Jersey. But I have to say, this last show, the season finale of this season, is probably got to be one of the best that I have seen in a long time as far as Real Housewives go. I mean, this season finale had it all. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. But before that, just want to share, I still owe you a few recap and reviews for the Real Housewives of Orange County, episodes 2, 3, and 4 to be exact. And I will definitely be bringing those to the platform. So definitely make sure you keep your notification bell on if you are interested in watching the recap and reviews, or if you're watching the shows. I would love to know your thoughts of what's been going on with the storylines, because it's been quite interesting to say the least. And I really would love to know what you're thinking, because at the end of the day, these Real Housewives are really just, they're doing the most in some cases. All right, so let's go ahead and hop right on into this one here. Now, they say that we're in Mercury retrograde, and I am trying to work with the technology today, because apparently that's one of the things that gets put awry is the technology. And yes, it's been like that for the last few days, I have to say. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now, we left off with the sit down at Teresa's house. Now, if you recall, Teresa basically has been going through some court cases that is regarding Louis, her husband, ex. There is an issue that was surrounding a restraining order that the ex was apparently putting on to Louis. Well, I think it came out to be where Louis was, I guess, vindicated in that particular case, in which the restraining order was not granted for whatever reason. All the particular details as to why it wasn't granted, I'm not really sure about. If you're familiar, more than welcome to, respectfully throw them in the comment section below. But for the most part, that's what happened. So the case has been over. Teresa has been talking about, as she did in the last episode, that she's been just going through it for quite some time. I think 6 months or so. And it's just been a whirlwind. And one of her individuals that is like her nemesis of the show really has been Margaret, and feeling that Margaret is a huge part of bringing a lot of negativity by talking to this ex and putting out stories and stuff about Louis into the ether, to where it now becomes by our awareness. And so it's been causing a lot of stress and strain for Teresa. So now Teresa felt very much vindicated, obviously, in the situation where she feels that Louis has won that particular case. I'm not sure how many other cases or other situations he may have had to deal with, but she wants to take the opportunity, because she's been kind of alluding to, and not really kind of, she has been straight out saying that people are going to know the truth now about Margaret and her participation in whatever demise that was potentially trying to happen with Louis. So this, in essence, became an opportunity for the ladies to come over to Teresa's home so she can have them sit down and take a listen to Teresa's lawyer, who has been pretty much a lawyer with the family for quite some time, including the time when Teresa and Joe, her first husband, as you may recall, were incarcerated for the different situations that happened at that point in time. So he's been a lawyer to the family. He's more or less, I guess, like a friend to the family. He really loves the family. He said all that. So he wanted to provide information, naturally, about those things that were associated with the case and what Margaret's particular participation may have been in that on the ex's side for Louis. Now, What was also put into play in conversation was that there was apparently a situation where Margaret was supposed to be subpoenaed for this particular court case. I'm not exactly sure what year this part was, but she was subpoenaed for a court case, probably this one exactly. So this one's probably going on for maybe a little bit longer, 6 months. But that Margaret ended up not going for whatever reason. She did not go. So I don't know all the particulars on that per se, but that's what it seems to be. It's being put out there for the most part, is that she was subpoenaed and she chose not to go. Now, Margaret says, look, I have not talked to this lady. I don't know anything about this. I'm not putting out any stories. I'm not doing any of these types of things. But Teresa just is really hell-bent on saying, no, she is, and we've got proof. So in that particular session at her house with the ladies, Dolores was there, Jennifer Aiden was there, Danielle Cabral was there. I believe Rachel was not there. I think there was one other person. Jennifer Fessler was invited, but because Margaret, if you recall, was so incensed by the fact that it was happening, because Margaret had coined it a burn session, right? Jen said, you know what, I don't want to be a part of it, because Jen is actually supposed to be really good friends for many years with Margaret, close friends at that. And so she decided to let Teresa know she can't be a part of that. Teresa seemed to be pretty cool with that. And that was that. So I believe that's all the people that were there. If I didn't mention Dolores was there as well. So they went there, and I believe Jackie Goldschneider was there as well. And that's going to be really important as we get to the sit down part. That was really the pierre resistance of the show. So as they go through wrapping up that session, basically saying that, yes, there was evidence that Margaret and her were in communication, they kind of leave off that session, which brings us really to the start of the finale of them kind of closing out that session. We also know another point that was made is that there was a funeral floral arrangement at that sent to Teresa's home by Margaret, directed towards Teresa and her attorney, or basically the shenanigans of having this basically powwow session about Margaret, now inviting Margaret to come and defend herself in that session. Now, of course, what's been framed around this conversation was just a way to let people know the things that we found, because of course Teresa feels that what they have is pretty much evidentiary. There's no way of going against it, right? So will be the point having Margaret there to say, what, I didn't do it when I'm showing you I've got proof, right? That's kind of what the essence is on that. So once we get to the end of that particular conversation, a couple of things are pointed out as one of those situations is Jackie Goldschneider being questioned because she was apparently friends with Margaret. Teresa had, said to her, look, how could you have not known what was going on? How could you not know the behind the scenes? Because, of course, Jackie and Teresa are now best friends, right? A wink, wink. But Jackie says, look, I didn't know anything about that. No, she never said anything to me about anything to do with that. So she kept it to herself. Now, Danielle actually looked at her and kind of asked that question too, kind of simultaneously. You sure you didn't hear anything about that? Because it just seemed kind of a little odd that you guys can be so tight and you not know or be familiar with these things. But, Jackie stands her, position that no, she doesn't know anything about what she's talking about, and, leaves it at that. So at that point, they kind of close out the session. Now, what was interesting to know is that this session actually happened in the morning. And this is important because of what the next scene opens up to be. So as they're wrapping up the conversation, the lawyer, I guess, is getting ready to leave. Everything is, copacetic. Oh, and her daughter, Gia, was there at the table as well. I knew it was one other person, listening into everything as well. So at this point, everything is, kind of closing out. They do bring out the fact that Dolores is really, really in favor of trying to have one more conversation with all the ladies together, some kind of gathering, some kind of scenario in which they can all kind of get out their grievances and maybe come to some resolve or get to some, retrospective that maybe might be helpful to have resolved. And one of those things, they were supposed to go away to an actual retreat type environment place where they got a nice house, and the house also had a second house or like a pool house, or I don't want to say outhouse because the outhouse is bathrooms, but like a second a small compartmented home on top with that property, but apparently it burned down to the studs, apparently. So there's a little bit of, obviously laughter and reflection on that, meaning that, hey, maybe that's an omen that, of course, Teresa called an omen, but it had to be corrected that it's an omen. And that's what she was trying to reference. But, basically think that maybe this is not a good idea. Maybe the universe is trying to tell us something. Maybe not, or maybe just be completely a coincidence. But that being said, there's a little bit of laughter about that. But Dolores, of course, saying, so that's out. We're not doing that. We're not going away now. But I still want to have this sit down. And the place that she was looking at is Rail Steakhouse. And if you recall, Rail Steakhouse was featured probably more than once, but in particular, another season finale episode with Jacqueline, Loretta, and where that kind of fell apart there too. So, like Dolores says, it's a nice setting. It's got a lot of nice ambiance. It's a great place. And it does actually look like a really nice place to go and dine in. And so this would be a nice area to have that sit down. So all the ladies are pretty much open to it. And of course, Teresa is really comfortable with it because she's like, look, I've got the truth on my side. I know, and I have the evidence that I need. So I'm more or less there. So I want to see Margaret pretty much fall, because that's really been Teresa's thing for the last maybe couple seasons or so, of really wanting to see a downfall for Margaret. So, understandably, she is good to go, comfortable. I can be there. All the ladies seem to be okay with it. And Jen Fessler and Dolores are going to be the ones that are going to kind of act as mediators at this session, because they're the two ladies that seem to be the most easy to be neutral in both sectors, right? They are friends with pretty much everybody. No one's really having an issue with them. And any issues that any individual ladies have with them, they kind of quickly are able to resolve them and still be considered friends and all of that good stuff. So it made sense to the ladies to let them pretty much handle the mediation of that situation. So that's all decided upon. So then we move on to being later in that morning, where we see Rachel with her daughters, because again, Rachel didn't go to this session with at Teresa's house. So, but she's with her daughters. She's been sharing a lot about the tongue tie situation with one of her daughters, and how the progressing of her motor skills and just all the milestones that she has just rapidly been achieving through getting the tongue tie situation taken care of. So that's really great to see. She's got some really cute kids. I tell you, those kids are adorable, and she's having a great time. So in that, we also see that we're moving over to, Melissa, and she's having some time with Joe, and her son is out, obviously doing shopping, and Melissa's doing the mom thing, saying, hey, don't forget to make sure you get some pants. And he said, you know what, I'll wait for you to get long pants. I don't know how to buy them. And so, they get a good laugh. And then, that was great to see. And then we move on to, at that point, to Margaret. And now we're going to be entering into a new scene. And that is Margaret is at her house, and, it looks like everything is, I think, pretty much completely done with the construction. And I think it's quite cute, actually, especially for Margaret. It's very Margaret. And so she's got her, nice little food spread, a charcuterie board, and I think some kind of pudding or something like that. Looks, very decadent. And she's waiting for Jen Fessler, her dear good friend, to come on over. Now, Jen Fessler, for a lot of this season, to me, has seemed to be quite stressed. I mean, the anxiety that she has pretty much obtained and is built up because of all of the fighting that these ladies are doing. It's just, sometimes it just takes over, and it's just all over her face. Really, it is. But she comes over, and she's having a nice, kind of sit down conversation with Margaret. And Margaret, of course, wants to speak about, the situation at Teresa's house. And they kind of talk about that a little bit. And of course, Margaret is coined at a burn session. Jen says, I don't think that's what that was really supposed to be about. It was just about them, sharing, or Teresa sharing what information she has for the ladies all at one time with the attorney there, maybe thinking it would be better if it came from the attorney. So that way you can see that, she's got no issue of, telling the full of what she at least knows about the situation and how Margaret has been in contact with that ex. Of course, Margaret stands by the fact that she's not been in contact with that ex. So yeah, that's pretty much how that is going. They're enjoying the food and everything. They're getting a good little bit of laugh. And Margaret, jokingly, laughingly, for real, shows Jen Fessler, hey, look, by the way, let me show you what I got. So she shows on her phone the funeral arrangement that she had sent to Teresa's home. And of course, when it did get sent to Teresa's home, Teresa was floored about it and said, take it away, tell her to stick it up her behind, get it off my property. That was the whole reception to the floral man that was delivering it. And of course, Jen Fest was like, come on, Margaret, but it was funny when Jen asked Margaret, did you talk to anybody first, like Joe, her husband, or the one of her friends, before she went and sent this? And Mark said, I don't need anybody's permission to do this. I'm going to go ahead and do it. And she just did it. And, hey, I'm with it too. If you're going to do something, stick with what you're doing, right? Don't falter with it. It's nobody else's fault. You take ownership of it. And that's the best that you can do. So of course, Jennifer's just like, oh, here we go. It's probably another thing we're going to have to hear about or talk about, at length. But, nevertheless, it was a bit of a funny moment. We do know that Danielle was very approving of that situation in her professional. She shared that, I believe, in last episode, as well as the beginning of this one. It kind of carried over into that. As the ladies are talking at Margaret's house on her really colorful couch, she gets a phone call from Dolores. And so Dolores, I kind of felt Dolores sounded a little bit strained on the phone, right? Like not her lucky self. So I kind of felt like something's up, and her disposition, she didn't seem to be so jolly or so laughingly, so fun when it came to Margaret on home. Kind of just, being, funny and just her normal self. And basically it's like, saying, yeah, we're talking about this situation and everything that's going on. And, Dolores like, yeah, well, I need to, sit with you. I need to talk with you. And so, of course, she's letting her know that Jen Fesser's there as well. Jen says, look, go ahead and bring some wine with you because the wine here, is not that great. And, so just, seems lighthearted on Margaret and Jen's side. But Dolores sounded a little stressed to me over the phone. So Dolores does get there and kind of record time. And that's when we kind of find out that basically well, I guess at the same time, it's more or less reconfirmed that so-called burn session or that meeting of the minds at Teresa's house was early in that morning. So clearly Dolores is pretty much just spent with all the information and everything that's going on with the ladies. So she basically comes on over and, wants to sit down and talk. It seems really lovely at first. She greets both Jen and she greets Margaret, of course. Margaret has her sit down. She asks what you're eating. She shares what it is. She gets up a little plate. She's cozying down and she's kind of talking about what's, going on. And of course, Margaret is dying to know, well, how did it really go at my burn session? And Doris says, look, it wasn't a burn session, but she wanted to talk to us and show us about, information in regards to you contacting the ex. And she, I'm going to say this, she didn't say this, but that she felt that, Teresa probably felt that there was a collaborative effort between Margaret and the ex, that's directed against Louis to embarrass him, to, bring him down or whatever of that nature. And of course, Margaret's denying it as the conversation is going on, but she is listening intently to everything that's happening in that conversation. So, Dolores further shares about how the conversation goes. They even talked about, a little bit about the house situation, but not as intent in that moment. That comes a little bit later on. So we start to get, the flashbacks within that scene of moments where Margaret has said something or other, or her and Teresa have gone back and forth since 2021 in regards to things about Louis, because if I'm not mistaken, I think that's when Louis hit the scene, was in 2021. And in that time, the conversation, of course, was that you talked to this one particular ex, but what we're being told, and I believe it was kind of mentioned in a couple seasons before as well, there's been multiple exes that kind of came online and said things one way or another, but there's this one specific one when it comes to the restraining order, I believe. And so, yeah, apparently around town, and this must not be a very big town where the ladies are at for the most part, where they've been approached by exes of Louis. Melissa even shares in her confessional that she was confronted by, or not confronted, just approached by Louis's ex-wife, niece. I don't know how many ex-wives Louis had, but an ex-wife of his, her niece. And she's basically saying, you need to watch your back. You need to take care of yourself. You need to be careful of this individual. And that's what a lot of the exes were saying. So, of course, in that conversation as well, Margaret's saying, look, I didn't talk to her the first year, right? I didn't have anything to say with her within the first year of the situation because and of course, I'm looking at my notes because I don't want to miss anything. But yeah, so she's basically saying, look, I did not have any conversation. I didn't know who the ex was. And, the communication that started with the ex was literally through DM. I never really met her. And in the first year of Louis being on the scene, I didn't know who she was, but that she was approached later at some point, probably on Instagram, right? And so there was communication. She says, darn right. After that point, because Louis had did the things that he did with the Bo Dietl, which is the private investigator, if you recall, that was pretty much brought into full in last season's season reunions, which I do have those if you want to get more specifics of the recap and review. It's actually under my live tab, so you can feel free to take a look at those videos to get the full gamut on what was going on and the back and forth, and it was pretty intense. But in a nutshell, Bo Dietl was an investigator that apparently Louis was in connections with or cahoots with to get information on all the cast members so they can basically take aim to use that against the cast members, right? At some point, probably at the reunion to embarrass them or whatever the case may be. One of the things that happened in that contact with Bo Dietl is apparently someone had either Bo Dietl himself or he sent someone to basically harass Margaret's son at his job. A lot of things were said. It were obviously inappropriate. It got back to Margaret. Margaret was truly upset about it. And so she made sure that she went to communicate with the ex to kind of really get a feel of what was going on. So as she's saying, wasn't going after her about anything in regards to Louis. I'm really doing this and getting information from the ex for my situation and my son and my family. Dolores is kind of helping her along. Well, if you didn't talk to her like that, what was the reason for you talking to her, right? Because or being in contact with her after the DM situation, because like she said, it seems like, she's a low caliber person. So why would you, or at least appears to be that way, right? We're not going to say definitely, right? Because I say all things alleged in that, but that it appears to be that way. And of course, we don't get the full gamut of the whole conversation or what even Dolores knows. So we're just going off of what we are being shown on the show. Now, Margaret basically lets her know, look, at the end of the day, of course, I'm going to go and I'm going to find out what I need to find out. So Dolores says, well, did you like to validate the stuff, validate things? She goes, yes, that's right. I did that to validate what was going on. I wanted to get information and I wanted to discuss it, about things, about the Bo Dietl thing in particular. Also, we cut to the confessional for Dolores in that moment where Dolores is saying, that's interesting that there would be anything that the ex would say about the Bo Dietl situation when apparently Louis and the ex are, by court order, not supposed to speak. So, what's up with that, right? We flip back to the scene itself. And, Margaret's going on further to talk about, yeah, that's what we needed to do. I'm darn right I'm doing it. And that's that. So then we're starting to move a little bit more into, Dolores making a comment about, well, shoot, you talk about this burn session, but, Teresa shares with us, you tried to do a whole summit. And that summit was definitely the conversation where Margaret was supposedly getting all the ladies together, the ones who wanted to be a part of it. And I thought it was supposed to be done at New York or in the hotel rooms, but now it sounds like it was probably done at Margaret's house. So I guess at the end of the day, we'll go with Margaret's house. They were invited before going to the reunion to basically gather all the information they had in regards to Louis and, unloading it at the reunion. So this was that summit. Now, what Margaret says is it wasn't a summit. It was a reunion review. Now, pause that for just a second. Now, for me, when we first got introduced to this whole concept of that the ladies got together before the reunion to talk and see what they were going to do and say and get their thoughts together for the reunion, I found that to be extremely normal. I think that's been going on for years. I would be so surprised and shocked, to be honest, if there was no type of gathering of the ladies, even if it's one or two or all of them, to go after one or to discuss certain things. It didn't seem to be that shocking to me. Also, going back to the conversation that Teresa had with the gathering with the ladies, the stuff that was even being told out of that situation didn't seem to be so shocking to them. Even there was no real true dropping of information that seemed to be anything. Everyone pretty much felt like there was communication going on. How and when and all that stuff is irrelevant. The bottom line is, if we remember a couple seasons prior to that, within, I think, that 2021 season, Jennifer Aiden and Teresa were talking to a so-called best friend of Margaret's and getting dirt on her. So, they do it to each other. So why this became such an issue is, to me, was like insane that it blew up so much, because it's like, y'all all do it to each other. I mean, I'm sure there's certain things that this so-called ex-best friend would have said about Margaret that Margaret wouldn't want out there, even if she was to tell the truth about those things, right? Maybe there's certain things that, this ex could have said that was fabricated. It puts Margaret in a position where she can't defend herself. So to me, what I'm saying is that, two wrongs don't make a right. We all know this. That's the old rule, right? The bottom line is y'all did it, she did it, and it was done. Can we move on? You're on TV, so therefore, if things are brought out there, things are being said, if you don't have loose ends closed and tied up, NDA to death, or whatever the case may be, it may just get out there. And that's what I think is what you're seeing mostly. And so that's why I didn't really feel like this earth-shattering information that was going to be told to us. I think we all kind of knew or felt. And truth be told, even Margaret saying, well, I didn't really say anything about this at this time, or I didn't really do anything about this time. It's kind of like, okay, Margaret, I'm sure you did, because any normal person would probably go and start, you're going to start digging about me, I'm going to start digging about you. That's normal. May not be right, but it's normal. And that's the way she's got to defend herself as well. Margaret's got businesses, right? She's got things and reputations and stuff. And, although Margaret has shared a lot about herself in her past, there's certain things she may not want to be out there. So, Jennifer says, look, I even got to a point where I stopped, Jennifer Aiden, that is, I stopped going to that ex because, it wasn't right. But the bottom line is you did do it. It got out there and it was out there. So let's just move on, right? But no, not that easy. Not that easy. So then as they continue on about the fact that Dolores and Margaret are back and forth. Now, mind you asked, what's Jennifer doing, right? Well, Jennifer's sitting on the couch looking like this. She looked so tense in that moment. Oh my gosh, it was so funny and not funny. I felt bad for Jennifer. Like I wanted to give her a hug, Fessler that is, because she looked like, oh my gosh. It was just, you could just see it all bubbling up to the top for her, right? So then we get on to Dolores, saying, well, yeah, I'm glad that you didn't invite me to that, sugar on honey iced tea. And it, Margaret just throws out there very casually, yeah, we did. And she was like, Dolores, oh my gosh. When Margaret said, oh yeah, we did. Something came over Dolores. I don't know what it was, but oh my gosh, she lost it. I mean, she just started. The first thing came out of her mouth was like, you lying MFer, you lying freaking, see you next Tuesday. I mean, it was so bad. I was like, oh my gosh, like, why are we so upset? She was so incensed. And I get, nobody wants to be called a liar. I totally get that. I totally understand that. But Dolores' reaction was like, I would not have been. She got up, she started yelling and hollering at her, you're a liar. I did not know about this. You did not ask me to do this. We did not discuss this. I don't know what you're talking about. You did not tell me this was going to be a review and da-da-da-da-da. And we were not going to, because what I was saying to myself as I hit a pin in that is that she must be really concerned about Teresa having any thought about her having any conversation. The bottom line is Dolores, to me, I don't see why she'd have any fear of Teresa in any way. And I don't think Teresa would come at her in such a way, either, because they've been friends for 20, 30 years, something like that. I think that Teresa, if anyone out of the group, she would just say to Dolores, did you, I don't think it would be so much vitriol towards Dolores, because Dolores can hold her own, right? But oh my gosh, she just went in on Margaret. She was so angry with Margaret. She's like, you're lying. You're not telling the truth. That's not how it went down, and da-da-da-da. So Margaret is like, oh my gosh, like, I cannot believe it. And Jennifer Fessler is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. She's like looking, we're flashing to the confessional for Jennifer Fessler. And she's just like, oh my gosh, why is she yelling so much? Like, this can't be this the issue. There must be something here that you're not talking about. There must be an issue here that we need to delve into. So yeah, it just got so bad. It got so bad. And so at this point, I felt like she was going to have a conniption. I felt like, well, she was having a conniption. I thought she was going to fall out or pass out, because she was so incensed and so angry. And, Margaret's looking at her like, why would you talk to me? Why would you say this? Why are you doing this? Why are you acting like this? I did tell you this. But you just kind of it was casual. It wasn't even that serious. I just said, yeah, we're having ladies come over for a review, but you're probably not going to want to come to that. She goes, it was like in passing, she was trying to, kind of just really, like, it wasn't that serious. serious. And Dolores was not having none of it. Dolores said, look, you're trying to call me a liar and act like I'm a bad friend to Teresa, and I ain't having it. So that was that. That was that. And so Dolores, of course, at some point when it was like, okay, calm down, because that's what Jen Fessler, says, enough, because Jen Fessler was on the meter, right? That was it. I can't take anymore. So she jumps in like, we need to all calm down, take a breath, take a beat. Like, this was getting so ugly. Like, it was so ugly. And I don't think I've seen Dolores really act like that in a long time, honestly, to that virtually, even though a couple of episodes back, she did good on Jennifer when she felt Jennifer was coming at Teresa at the podcast thing in the church. And she snapped fast at Jennifer, and Jennifer, like, she straightened up. I mean, she was defending herself, but she straightened up. But yeah, Dolores just lost it. And she said, look, I'm going to stop. Because at first, she's like, I'm going to have to go because you are trying to call me a liar and I ain't down with that. And so, once Jen was kind of like, we got to bring this back. Dolores is like, okay, I need to calm down, basically, right? I'm so sorry. I need to apologize. I'm sorry. Just, I wouldn't go as hard if I didn't love you like a sister. Margaret's like, okay, well, I apologize too for the situation, but we go back to cut the confessional. Margaret says, look, I remember asking her, maybe she doesn't remember, but I remember saying it to her. I'm not a liar, so yeah, it is so crazy that situation went. But basically, Dolores starts to calm down. She sits down. She does apologize, about the situation. And she sits down. I kind of felt bad for Margaret. And Margaret basically says, I'm about to cry because I've never, you're like one of my best friends. I would never call you a lying, seeing you next Tuesday. She didn't know what to do. And I actually felt bad for Margaret because, yeah, it was bad. So at this point, Dolores is calming down. She tries to bring back into center that, look, maybe, I really want us to get to a point where we can kind of just get back together and just have a conversation and, get things, our points across. And I want to know if everybody's down for that. And, we just really need to have that moment. And, of course, the ladies hug at this point. They sit down together. Everybody's just, really just trying to calm themselves down. But you see the love is there for sure. But I don't know how long that love is going to last. But you can see that. But so at this point, Margaret says, look, I am down for whatever. I most certainly will definitely, be a part of this conversation. I have a lot to say, and I'll just keep calm with it. And Dolores is like, okay, that's great. Jen is happy, all's happy, and we in that scene. But when I tell you that situation was crazy, it was crazy. And if you saw it and you thought it was crazy, please leave it down in the comment section what you thought. Were you shocked? Were you surprised? Oh my gosh. I know Dolores has it in her because Dolores is that chick. But my goodness, it was just, there's something else got to be going on. But like, Dolores said, she's had a trying day, a tiring day, and it just all came out. And I kind of feel like maybe there's been a lot of time, that was bundled up into that, that lash out. Like there was so much more about that. Maybe, her suppressing, because sometimes when you try to be neutral, that means you have to be able to put things away differently, compartmentalize things, maybe not address things a certain way because you're trying to keep peace. And sometimes that can bubble up if it's not been addressed fully. And at the end of the day, this has gotten so long and so tired and so stupid. And it's part of the reason, a small part, the bigger part is really Teresa and Melissa's situation as to why things are in a crux, if you will, in regards to whether or not the show comes back and how it comes back and for who may be on the show, who may not be on the show. And at the end, I'm going to share with you my thoughts about who should go and stay and how that should go. But we'll get there here just shortly. So we've moved on from basically that, and all is good, at least in that moment. And we're going to see if Margaret has the wherewithal, because I was also, when I was seeing Margaret's face at the moment when Dolores was saying all these things to her, I'm just thinking, does they even know about the fact of her husband Joe and what he's going through with the prostate situation, whether or not he has cancer or not? I mean, like, there's real stuff that's going on here. And I don't know, just a little bit of empathy would have been nice, or just calm down some. I don't know. It just felt like it was a bit much. All right. So then we move on to, think the same day, possibly, if not the same day or day after, but not too far. But we're going to Rachel's house, and she invites Danielle and Melissa over. Basically, Danielle, as she was one of the three that actually went to the gathering at Teresa's house, she's sharing about what took place. But before we even get to that point, we get a bit of an update for John, Rachel's husband. Now, if you watched the episode prior, John had an allergic reaction. They were taking bone marrow shots, which means they were taking shots of their alcohol and bone marrow, I guess, flask of some sort. And they thought maybe he might have been allergic to that because, his eyes were bulging. And I saw the episodes, and yeah, he just kind of like something was happening. And he was starting to like Quasimodo a little bit, and his breathing was belabored and all of that good stuff. They had to call the paramedics and all that stuff to get him checked out. It was just like really, really a crazy situation. That was when they had the guys' night out type thing, and they were separated, right? And it was all that was happening at Joe's house, Gorga's house, excuse me. And so Rachel gives us a bit of an update that basically what they think possibly happened because, her husband didn't want to go to the hospital. He made it clear he didn't want to be seen before, but they had no choice. The producer stepped in, said, no, we're going to get you checked out. She said that, she's got an allergist to come to the house because he wouldn't go to the doctor, had him checked out from everything they possibly can come up with. Looks like he's not allergic to anything. So what happened is maybe a chip of the bone marrow probably got caught in, as he was guzzling down, and it just, wreaked havoc. But he seems to be doing good and everybody's fine, and we're moving on to that. But she also just shared now she, kind of gets concerned time he eats steak and some other bone-in item, shellfish. She's taking a little extra check on him, right? So it was kind of funny. Danielle also does talk about, the comment that she'd made about the podcast that Teresa had that was in the church about, how did she was surprised the church didn't burn up because, the shenanigans of Jennifer Aiden and that situation that they had when it came to the charity situation and all of that. And then she also further goes into talking about, oh yeah, by the way, that house burned down, the one that we're supposed to go out on that trip to. And they're like, what? Yeah, the house burned down, like to the studs. And of course, Rachel asked, well, I wonder if it started in the bedroom that Teresa and Jennifer would have been staying in. And Daniel goes, well, what do you know? It actually did. So yeah, Dolores told her, yeah, that it basically started over there and it burned down everything else. Oh, Lord have mercy. But that they still were going to go to this sit down situation. They were kind of discussing about that as well, about what they had to contribute or offer. Danielle says, look, I've got things to say to Jennifer, but I need to be able to say these things without getting so heated. Rachel says, suggests that maybe you should write these things down so you can, speak to her about it. And Danielle's like, look, that would be a good idea, but I want to look her in her eyes. I don't want to be looking down. I want to be looking at her eyes. And she was okay. So that was that. And then Danielle also does, speak on the actual, session there and what they talked about at the house. And, she basically also shares that, Teresa's all stressed out. She's been stressed out. She goes, I think that, things are not doing so well or copacetic at home because of all of these antics. And, she's, soaking wet, not a lot of pounds. And of course, Rachel quirks, that's the Ozempic situation. That ain't stress, they get a little laugh out of that. And we kind of start moving on to the fact of who's got what to say. Rachel's like, I'm down for going. Danielle says that, I got lots to say. And Melissa says, look, I ain't got nothing to say. And basically I'm going to get there and say, you know what? I have nothing to say because, Melissa has come to a good resolve about, there's nothing more that she needs to add or offer to the conversation, to the situation with the lady. She said all that she needs to say. And that's where we are. I've also done a couple of other videos you may see on the platform as well in regards to the conversations that are surrounding RHO and J and where they go from here. And she did speak a lot in that. So if you're interested in hearing some more information in regards to that and what she had to share about that, feel free to take a look at that video if you haven't already. So yeah, that's basically where they're at on that. Let's see. Anything else I want to cover about that? No. Nope, that was basically it. She just wanted to keep the peace. So then we move over into a really nice scene for Danielle and her family. I really like Danielle and her family. I love her and her husband's dynamic. I think he is such a supporting husband. I love them together. I think they have a very cute family. They just, they're just great. We all know that Danielle has been very transparent. At least, as far as all the details, is one thing, and no one's asking her to do that. I don't think it's necessary to tell everything about everything. It is still her business, still her family. She still has to deal with that. But we do know that she has issues that are giving her a situation where she's estranged from her brother. I think we're going on like 2 years now, maybe longer, and maybe actually longer, because I think they're saying that her and her father have been estranged for almost 2 years. So clearly the estrangement has been a lot longer for the brother. She felt that in a sum that her father is not handling that estrangement, correctly, or to what she feels it should be. Which tells me either he's being extremely neutral or maybe giving her pointers or reasons why he feels more on the side or understanding of the brother, and maybe she doesn't feel like she's getting the same kind of understanding as well. So it's causing estrangement for them. But she has invited him to a couple of events that unfortunately he has not been able to make in this season, but at least it was a start of reconciliation. I believe that they had mentioned that for her husband, that, he was not close to his father or had a very strange situation with his father, and his father's not around for whatever reason. So he has a very soft spot for her family structure and her dynamic. So he has a very vested interest in trying to help her, to communicate and be in communication continually with her family, and just not giving up on them so fast, trying to get into there. And I think her husband does a beautiful job at that. I really do. He doesn't vilify Danielle. He doesn't vilify the other side. And I just think it's really great the way he does it. And he's just so protective in that. And I just love the way he loves Danielle. I really do. So very healthy looking relationship. And so I continue to wish the best for them, because I think that he just really shows up for Danielle in a way. And, she's so feisty, but yet I feel she's a good person, from what I can see and tell. And they're fiery for each other. I think it's great. So hopefully that will continue to last forever and ever for them. We just, get to that point where, make sure we're not missing any of that, because that was such a good point, about the whether or not she's going to talk to her father. They call her father Sam, so the kids don't get any kind of edge on what's going on, right? She wants to keep them thinking that he's a hero, the grandfather being a hero. So that being said, the evening that Danielle and her husband are at the home, they're doing pumpkin carving, which seems like a very nice family thing to do. Kids are having a good time as well. But before they get started in that, she does send a text to her father, basically saying, I hope everything's going okay, basically thinking of you, and, yada, yada, yada. Because again, those two events, her father was not able to attend, but it seemed like, one was because he got sick, possibly with COVID, and he wanted to make sure, he wasn't going to be at the event and cause any issues and, infecting anyone. And then secondly, apparently his wife had some type, I think, eye surgery or something to the effect, there were some complications, and so he was there helping her through that. And that's just how the cookie crumbled. Hopefully everybody is good and doing well. But it seems to be that he responded back, and the text was very lovingly towards Danielle, that he's very proud of her and he loves her and all of that. So I think that they're really on a good path of reconciliation, and I'm hoping that and wishing that for them. Also in that conversation, her and her husband were talking, and he kind of mentioned, about, because I think he wasn't able to go to either one of the male events, right? The guys' events. So she had asked, which one would you have went to, since apparently now the guys are split, which I think is really sad, because now the women are arguing and doing all this. Now the men are having to do separate events on the same day, I think. And it's just kind of sad, because it's fun when they're all together, but with all this bickering and foolishness now, because they have to support their wives, which I totally agree with that, it puts them in a position where now they don't want to, hang out or can't hang out together or something like that. So that's a little bit very much, not a little bit, it's unfortunate. So she had asked him, whose house would you have went to? And he said, well, I probably would have went to, Louise and events. So she's like, oh, okay. And she mentions about Bill, being Jennifer Aydin's husband and all. And, Danielle doesn't have any love for Jennifer Aydin. She's, who she is and what she is. How could you like him, when she's the way she is? There's got to be something that carries over. And he was like, look, why do you think he sleeps in the pool house? Why do you think, he's always working all these late hours, right? So I'm like, ooh, yeah. It doesn't seem like it's as good as I'm sure Jennifer would love for us to think. Jennifer Aiden, that is. Um, so yeah, this is quite a situation brewing, but he jokes about it, and they still have a great rest of their evening with their family. So and that kind of closes out that scene, and then we move on to the ladies getting ready for the sit downs, and there's a bit of a conversation going on with different couplings. Of course, Margaret is like, look, this might be the last time that I see some of these ladies, so I'm gonna make sure that I look good. Rachel Fuda is basically saying, I'm getting mob wives type of vibes, so I think I'm gonna go there. John agrees with her that that's probably a good way to go. Of course, she says, like, I had bought all these nice clothes for this trip, and now I can't go on this trip, so she's gonna find an opportunity to wear it here. And then we also look at Dolores, who, of course, she's one of the architects of this lunch or brunch or whatever it is. I think it's a lunch. For the ladies with Jen Fessler. So we see her getting ready, pulling out her outfit. Of course, Holly, he likes what she's got because, hey, he bought it for her in France, and he asked, how you feeling about this? How you think things are going to go? And, she's like, look, I think it's going to be okay. But at the end of the day, we're just going to have to see, what we're going to do here. Also to the theme of what they should go with, because Jennifer Aiden is also picking out her outfit, trying to decide what do you think we're going to go with. And of course, Bill says, like, call the Lion's Den, because that's what it feels like is going to be happening. And I'm sure the guys all together are very happy that they're not going to be attending. I'm going to hold off on Louis and Teresa for just a quick second and move on to Melissa and Joe, because I like that sweater that Melissa had on, by the way. That was really colorful and just super cute. But her and Joe, they're talking and they're reminiscing. There's a lot of flashbacks happening here as well between both the sister brother, dynamic. But Melissa is talking to Joe and asking her basically, how do you feel about how I plan on going into this dinner, because I'm at this point where I'm okay to be done. We're not going to get in resolve. We've done all we need to do, and I just don't want to fight anymore, and I'm done. And Joe is like, I'm good with that. He's wore his watch from his father. He's reminiscent about that. There's flashbacks that are talking about where his father said, look, take care of your sister. And unfortunately, because of the things that happened, I think subsequently to Louis, is why they're on the path that they're on. It's not solely because of Louis, but it's an agitator to the situation for sure. They also, Joe Gorga mentions, some of the things about Louis directly that took place, because he felt he was open armed with him. But then, there's a Pizzagate situation, which I'm not quite understanding exactly what's going on there. I don't know if it's something to do with some equipment. They mentioned this in the reunion last season. But, something to do with equipment or the restaurant or whatever. And he felt like, Louis pretty much, stiffed him, cut him out of the situation, and it was supposed to be a partnership type of deal. And so that was really a horrible situation. And just everything subsequently, that was going on with the situation. So, yeah, we see the demise that happened when Melissa and Teresa were finally, that was it. It was done, because of course Melissa's going to be there for Joe, and Teresa's gonna do what she can to support Louis, even no matter who it's against. And but it was nice to see the moments where Melissa and Teresa actually did get along, and but we saw a combination of that. So it's just all sad, quite frankly, and we've talked about this at length in regards to where this probably came from. And I personally think this is old and drawn out as far as their situation, and I don't see no resolve until they're both honest about things and sit down and not be on camera per se, because I think that's not going to help them. They can use the camera for reviving or revisiting the situation, but I think the initial conversation has to happen on camera. So that's that's going on with that. And then we flip to Louis and Teresa, and Louis asking Teresa, how do you think you're going to play things with Margaret? What do you think is going to go on with that? Teresa's like, look, I don't really have much to say about Margaret, in the sense that, I'm where I'm at. This is what we know. We know what she did. We've got the proof. I don't need to really do anything. I'm not strategic anyways. I kind of just go with the flow. He said, I know. And then she also mentions that, look, my brother too, as far as Melissa goes, my brother knows I'm done. She says, he knows I'm done. Now, I'm not going to say for life, because you shouldn't say that, but I try to keep the peace when our parents were here, so that way they can pass on peacefully. But I'm like, if you believe in the concept of your family members or past members coming and watching over you, they see this kind of thing. And so it's just really unfortunate, honestly, how the demise has happened. And it feels like it's going to be generational. I think to some degree it already is, because, with Rosie's and Kathy's mother, and I believe she was a sister of Teresa and Joe's father. And there was a rift there for years and years. I don't even know if they ever reconciled. So, it's just sad, really. It's just sad at the end of the day. And I feel like, of course, all of the kids, they're not having the ability to be able to be with either one of each other's cousins. They were starting off growing up and now they're not. And it's just really, really all sad. It's just all sad. But, at the end of the day, this is where we are. Now, of course, Louis like, I wouldn't give even Melissa 10% of your time, that's that, and of course for the rest of the ladies, she's like, you be nice and welcoming to the ones who were there to support you. For the other ones, don't worry about it. I didn't like something that he had made a comment about, in which I will cover that in a separate video as well, as far as his response to, I think, the backlash of what was said about at this moment, when he basically says, him being Louis, that he wishes basically ill and bad on Margaret and her family and her son in particular, because of all the drama that he has ensued. And it was just really poor taste. And to wish evil or anything on somebody else is never a good place to be, in my opinion. I do feel like whatever you put out energy wise is what you get back. And I cannot imagine if you're wishing something evil on someone else that you don't think somehow that's going to circulate around you and back to you. So as far as I'm concerned, I thought that was really a piss poor thing to say. And I wish that he hadn't said it. And I think that he has some regret about that too. Maybe because of the backlash, maybe it's just because he really does have regret. I don't really know, but I will bring that tidbit to you in a separate video. So, we're going further through, of course, Louis going after John and Rachel, basically said they're trash people. Or John and Margaret more or less was the trash, but he didn't have any love for Rachel and John either. And he thinks that they both think that, John's probably hiding out things and Rachel don't know everything about them. So, it is what it is. It's just, they're not going to get along. They're just not going to get along. So yeah, we are kind of getting to a point where Joe says, look, to Melissa, I want you to go ahead and do whatever it is that you're going to do, say, and be however you're going to be. And that's that. So Melissa said, okay. Because she's asking me, like, how do you want me to address this? Let me know now, forever hold your peace. And so he's like, yeah, I'm good with it. I'm good with whatever, you want to do. Joe does mention that Teresa's old school Italian. So at the end of the day, she's not going to admit to some of the things that was said, even in regards to what Melissa shared about, what Danielle said about the stress and everything that was going on. And of course, she doesn't, which is so interesting in the dynamics of that in their time frame of talking, that she's like, I don't wish anything like that on the family. I think it's unfortunate it's happening. And he's like, well, she wouldn't even admit if it was or not anyway, she being Teresa. So, and I think there's a lot of truth to that as well. But yeah, that's kind of where they are going. So we then start to move into now the territory of the down. What everybody was waiting for on this particular episode was the ladies getting together and seeing what was going to happen, what kind of shenanigans are going to happen, because it obviously was played up to the point that they did not need to do a reunion for the show, because they felt that this season finale was the reunion, but they have now since decided to do some kind of coming together, but it's not in the normal reunion style. We've talked about that. I've talked about that in previous videos that are also on the platform. If you haven't gotten a chance to take a look at those, go ahead and do so. This is maybe a few videos back where I'm discussing about what some of the angles that they were looking at as far as how to address that last gathering with the ladies for this season before they completely closed down season 14. So what it looks like, of course, that in the same steakhouse, they're going to have the ladies in separate rooms, just as a slight recap, with certain ladies in one room, other ladies in another room. And then the two that are going to kind of bounce back, I think, between both rooms is going to be Dolores and Jennifer Fessler, so they're the two neutral people. So that's where it kind of stands there. But because the anticipation was really like, there's probably nothing going to be done at this point, because the season finale really did say everything. There was nothing else more to contribute to this conversation. It really did feel at the end that everybody was where they were going to be, and there was not going to be any budget. But let's go ahead and get into a bit of these things anyways, because the highlighting of the situation was phenomenal. mama, no. It was so good. It was one of the best, and I do mean the best season finales, I feel, in my opinion, of all of the franchises. Now, there are some that are ranked, obviously, I would say this is my top three, it's up there, right? For me. It was great. It was great. It's all along the same lines of the table flipping thing. And because of the intensity of what was going on, those two situations are somewhat different also, because you're dealing with family dynamics in a different kind of way. But nevertheless, they did not disappoint. And it just, they put it all out there. Now, the cute thing about this is everybody looked gorgeous. Everybody, not anyone walked in there not looking like they were ready to go. And quite frankly, they all kind of looked like they were in a themed situation of a reunion. You know how they choose certain styles or colors or whatever. That's what it looked like. So everybody was basically in black and white with a bit of brown and a little bit of color, right? Jen Aiden brought in the bit of color with the reds and the golds and stuff, but it all tied in together. Everybody looked phenomenal. So yeah, those are your looks there. And we loved it. And I love Dolores' outfit and her hair up. I mean, it's so cute. And it really was quintessentially what I would expect of these ladies. They really dressed to the nines and they looked good. It looked very authentic to, just their branding and, just being in Jersey, period, at least, for them, that's what it felt like to me. So I think it was great. I think this was awesome. I wonder if this is going to start to change the tides of how they do reunions for any of the shows that do continue to move on in a future aspect. So we're getting to the date and time. Everybody's pretty much dressed. Dolores gets there first, of course. Jennifer Fessler comes in after. The room is beautiful at the restaurant. She gives us a bit of a tour of the restaurants for all of us who do not remember what it looked like. But it's got, she said, the woods and all the decorative aspects of this restaurant. It makes it feel very warm, and it's just a great place to be at. And they don't blame the restaurant for the issues they had in the past, which I think is so funny, because it's not the restaurant, got nothing to do with it. It's the ladies. But nevertheless, they have beautiful centerpiece, or not really centerpiece, but placeholders, but they're using as flower bouquets. It was so really nicely done, very tastefully done. I really liked it. The food looked good. They were serving some food there. Some ladies got a chance to eat, which was nice. I almost didn't think that was going to happen, but it did. It was really nice. Yeah, so it was great. So the ladies start coming in, and I'm going to go ahead and share the ones that go in, because I think that was kind of interesting. So of course we had Dolores first, we had Jen Fessler next, then we see Rachel. And as the ladies are coming in, we're seeing a little bit of a flashback of those ladies when they first got onto the scene. So, when Rachel comes in, we're seeing how there seemed to be a nicer time between her and Teresa, which I really thought her and Teresa really would have gotten along, to be honest with you. But then we have Danielle that comes in next, and we see a little bit of a beginning clip for her. Melissa comes in, then we see a little bit of back and forth with her, because she's been on a really long time herself. Margaret comes in, and then Jackie Goldschneider comes in, and then of course Jennifer Aiden, and then Teresa is last. So as all the ladies get there, before Teresa gets there, everybody's kind of sitting down. There are locations where each person's supposed to sit. Dolores wanted it to be sectioned off for each person that had a problem with someone that was significant enough that they were sitting across from each other, so they can look each other face to face. So of course, when Teresa walks in and she sees that she's supposed to be sitting directly across from Margaret, she says, "Oh, I'm not sitting in front of her." So she's already fired up, ready to go. That's not happening. So they quickly shifted. Of course, and Margaret's like, Teresa, grow up, right? Can we just get started? So everything seems to be okay, but quickly becomes not so okay. And then we're off, basically. We are off. So, it's mentioned about the outfits. I think Jennifer Fessler was the one that stated about how everybody looked, and everybody was, dressed really uniformly. And that was how that was starting. They welcomed the girls, right? They both stood up at the table to basically let them know the ground rules of how this was going to go. They were happy everybody came, and the intent was for everybody to listen, to get their, listen to each other, get the things out that was bothering them, and try to come to resolve, or at least get out what needed to be get out. Basically, Dolores says, "Look, I'm not going to step in unless there's resolve at this point." So in other words, once I feel like the point has been made, or we're belaborating. I can't, and now I'm starting to talk like I can't get the words out. Belaboring the points. Once a point's been made, that's when I'll step in if there's not a closure to that pinpoint. So I think that was good because everybody's grown and everybody needs to take responsibility for themselves as well. So we also see that Jennifer Fessler, apparently seems to be a little bit nervous. She's, like I said, she's been nervous for a few of these episodes, but she's hanging in there at least for the time being. We see some flashbacks occurring about some pivotal moments about the ladies and some of the things that were going on. We see that some of of course, the places, everything was set up really nicely. And so, yeah, we're kind of getting off to see who starts first. So Dolores says, everybody's going to go in order. And she starts off with Jennifer, Aiden, and Danielle. So she says, yeah, you two are up. So the issue particular with Jennifer and Danielle, as we may recall a few episodes ago where this kind of started, was a charity thing. And Danielle's just really upset about what was said. And, she explained, look, all of the things that it took to put the charity together came out of our money or out of a budget. And of course, Jennifer is like basically saying, look, we understand you're not able to afford this. So you have to come after individuals to kind of jump in to help you, right? Going after, maybe those are going to the event because you don't have the money to be able to carry the whole entire load yourself. That was harsh. It makes sense to me that, of course, when you're doing a charity, you will have a budget, and certain things are part of that budget, like, the food, any type of what would you call, like, utility-based things that need to happen. If you got, a DJ there or a speaker there, you may have to pay for that, that type of thing. So that's where some of the money goes. But the amount of percentage of everything that they have outside of that should be going to the charity, right? Which is what apparently seems to be what takes place. This doesn't seem to be an abnormal thing to most people, but for whatever reason, Jennifer's really cut onto that. Also, there's that issue with, her saying that she thinks that Danielle was an elitist and that how she was kind of bad mouthing her hairstylist. And of course, and we're not to really reiterate all of what happened, but we saw how that, kind of summed up to them getting to a hostile moment where Jennifer, in a way, was really egging on Danielle, because I think Jennifer, obviously, like most of us know, that if you get Danielle to a certain point, Danielle's going to react. And I feel sometimes Jennifer will say things just to get the reaction from Danielle, and Danielle kind of falls for it every time. But I still like Danielle, so I just need her to kind of just calm down. And I feel like she wants to try, but when you hit those kind of belly button situations, you never know how that reaction happens. And I guarantee you that if Jennifer was saying these kind of things in a position where you didn't have producers and other ladies there to stand in between you and Danielle, her clock would be clean. There's just no doubt about that for me. Danielle is that chick. She's about that life, in the sense of, like, she's going to put it to you. If you got something to say, you're going to probably deal with it in another way, and it may not always be verbal. So, of course, by her saying that, it just gets on even nastier and nastier. And you see Danielle's trying to keep it together, but, she is still sticking in there. And, basically, even in the beginning, when Danielle says, look, I want to be able to tell you everything I need to tell you without, us getting to a certain point. And Jennifer, rather than just saying, okay, great, or just not saying nothing at all and just listen, she has to say, well, if you can do that. So it's clear Jennifer wants to, provoke something, right? I don't know if the goal is to provoke it to a point where she's thinking that if one of us got to go, it's going to be you and not me. I don't know. But nevertheless, that's where they were at. So, of course, as things keep going, she brings up, about how Danielle said something in regards to, okay, we're getting into the home territory at this point, right? So we're getting into the fact about, who's got what, because when Jennifer or Aiden made that comment about, of course you ain't got money, basically, so of course you got to pander to us to get money, she's like, you got all this house, right? And what, 8 bathrooms or whatever it is, 18 bathrooms, whatever the case may be, and it's so empty. And she's like, well, it ain't empty. What are you talking about? It's empty. You want my life, right? Jennifer tells what's her name? Danielle, you want my life. And Jen's like, what life? Why do I want your life for? For what? She's happy, right? And she's like, look, I know that you sit at home and you cry yourself to not, you cry yourself by yourself in your home because it's so empty, no love, no, whatever. And of course, Jennifer goes for the gusto with the family situation because, when people who have issues with their family members, they tend to try to find family within their friends. And it's like, here's the thing for me on that point. That has happened so much for so many people. And I thought that was such a low blow. But of course, that's what Jennifer wanted to do. She wanted to do a low blow. But it was a low blow because there's a lot of people who are in positions like that where, you don't get to choose your family. So at the end of the day, maybe if you're not getting the love and the care that you're supposed to get for your family, or the attention you're supposed to get for your family, or the care, for sure that you're supposed to get for your family, you may look to your friends. Your friends may be what gives you that comfort because you can choose the friends, right? So to use that as a stabbed, weaponized situation, I thought was unfair, and it affects a lot of people. And I just didn't think that was cool. So of course that's hurtful. And so Danielle's like, at the end of the day, you cry at home at night, and that's that. And she says, oh yeah, I got my man, I've got my situation. She goes, oh yeah, your man with the boobs and you with the brawn. And that was all that Danielle needed to jump up and get ready to throw hands. So everybody gets up, because now you're talking about the husbands and you're going directly at the husbands. And Jennifer Aiden, of course, she's still sat in her seat. It's almost like someone told her don't ever get up, and she just sat there. She didn't get up, but everybody kind of crowded around her to be that protective piece. So she really didn't have to do anything, right? They're also trying to hold Danielle back. Danielle is done. I mean, she is ravishly about to, really rip Jennifer Aiden's head off. And so, and then they're going back and forth. The ladies start going back and forth. Teresa yells, why don't you cut it out? Cut it out. She's saying this to Danielle, and Melissa looks at her, cut it out. And now I think this is the first time Melissa's ever said anything to Teresa the entire time, right? This whole season, all the Melissa said not a single word. They haven't done any scenes together, so it was wild. But she says, "Cut it out." What do you mean, cut it out? You're basically the start of this nonsense. And she says, "What are you talking about?" And Teresa's like, "F you" back to her, in regards to her saying that to her, and she's like, "No, F you," and they're going back and forth, between the two of them. And then they're also doing their poses, strike a pose back and forth because, of course, Teresa can't help herself but to call her, well, this was after Melissa did say, as far as the fact after the FU, that you're the one that shows them this, you're the one they get it from, you W trash. And so she says, oh, right, I'm a W trash. Well, you're a lady of the night. And so she's like, okay, well, she really called her, the H word, but lady of the night. And so she's like, oh, wow. So interesting that you call it. I'll let Antonio know that you think about that for a mother. She goes, yeah, my brother married a lady of the night. The H word, but lady of the night. So yeah, oh my gosh. And then so of course they're striking poses, looking at each other like, what up, what up, what up. And eventually that just cut out. But it was crazy because it was like, what on earth is going on? And they were both so childish in that moment. But it's like they're never gonna be cool. They're never gonna be cool. Like I'm convinced this is never gonna be okay. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Teresa, boy, when she stepped up, I was like, wow, she knocked all the namaste out of her. I mean, she was just to the gusto. I felt like Teresa, for the most part for the season, at most points, was trying really hard to feel like she was centered because she was obviously out of, just felt so out of whack with everything going on at home and with these court cases and all this stuff and all of that. And, at the end of the day, people don't want to deal with the, court situations anyways. But it was funny. It was comical. It was funny and sad all at the same time. So yeah, of course, because Danielle jumps up and does what she does, everybody gets concerned. Jennifer then decides to yell for a producer and says, look, she's standing up, she's trying to fight me. What you going to do about that? She can't be here. She got to go. Right. Because that's a really good way to kind of, it kind of reminded me of a situation where you think you have the upper hand. And so at this point, I'm the one that's in charge. And that's how it felt, but Danielle, of course, she's really upset. So she grabs her purse. She's like, I'm out of here. And so she goes out to the lobby area. Of course, Dolores follows behind her. Rachel follows behind her because they don't want her to leave. They want her to be able to calm down. She is really upset. She's actually in tears. She's upset. She's angry. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Danielle did speak about her husband and the situation in which I think he was sick at some point. If I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comment section below. But I think he had like a real illness. It was a real thing. And so, their love for each other is really tight and very solid. And so for her to attack her husband like that, and he had no reason to be brought up into that situation. I know a girl said she cried empty at night in an empty house, but she didn't say Bill's name. I don't know. It just seemed like, at the end of the day, it was all that Danielle could take. And so, you're not coming after me. Although Danielle did basically tell Bill that he was looking with the devil, but, okay, Sarah. So, the basic thing is that they were like, look, you need to go to the bathroom, get yourself together. Let's just, you just got to calm down and all of that good stuff. Of course, Teresa runs out too, trying to be kind of like, what's going on? Teresa in her fashion look. And she's like, don't you start with me. It's Danielle to Teresa. Don't you start. Don't you start. And it's not about you. And she's like, no, it's not about me, but yeah, I don't understand what's going on. Like I'm dealing with Margaret, and that was all Danielle needed. So of course she's, starts to storm off because she says it's not about you. And, Teresa says, look, I'm not making it about me. I just don't want you to be, being violent. So at this point, everybody's gone to the restroom or on the way to the restroom. Teresa's left to herself in the hallway, and she makes her way back to the room with the rest of the ladies. Danielle and Dolores then continue on with Rachel right outside the bathroom. Rachel says, look, you're going to go to the restroom. You're going to clean yourself up. You're going to come back. And so Rachel goes back to the room, whereas Dolores stays with Danielle and goes to the restroom with her. And you can hear on the mic, basically telling you to calm down. You're doing good. Well, first she's telling you need to calm down. It's okay. And she's like, I'm trying to calm down, Dolores. This is Danielle. I'm trying to calm down, Dolores. And she's like, you're doing good. You're doing good. And so, and she was, because it was a lot, and so we see that we then go back to the group of the ladies, and where, Melissa and Jennifer, they're kind of talking about the situation. Jennifer was like, look, she said, look, that I was crying myself at home at night, so of course, and she's going to say what she needs to say. So, it was kind of unnecessary, but there it is. So Danielle makes it back, but before Danielle makes it back, the question, Dolores comes back first and basically says to Jennifer, look, do we need to keep Danielle, are you okay with Danielle being here? Are you feeling okay? Or do we have to ask her to leave? Because, really, we want to keep Danielle there. And so, of course, Jennifer in her high horse moment says, well, I give her permission to be able to stay. And she's like, okay, so you're not threatened by her at all? She's, no, I'm not threatened by her. I think she's a clown. I mean, I can laugh about this. I think she's a clown. So she's like, okay, great. So Danielle comes back in. Danielle, of course, she was sitting across from Jennifer, I believe. Well, not directly across from Jennifer. Or maybe she was. I don't remember. I don't think so. But she was next to Margaret, and they're like, no, we need to move you down. So you're not at all within eyesight. So Danielle does move all the way down. She's fine with that. It's fine. And she's pretty much done at that moment. And then we are moving on to basically, I want to make sure where we go. I did not want her to leave, blah, 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 blah. Rachel then spoke back to the table. Rachel tells Danielle for what she will go to the bathroom. And then we go through that. Yeah. And then we're now moving into the territory of Margaret and Teresa. Yeah. And this is what we're all here for, right? We're really all here for that. So Margaret starts, saying, let me lay down some things. Teresa's like, I ain't got nothing to say, because bottom line is I got the proof of the situation. I know everything that's said. I've got the thing. You tell me you were talking to his ex and you were subpoenaed and you didn't come. But if you really didn't have any conversation about that ex, you would not have denied coming. You would have came and you would have just simply said you didn't know her. So she was really stuck on the fact that you are the person that had everything to do with that situation with the ex. Margaret tells Teresa, I had not anything to do with that. Basically, she just says, look, I didn't have anything to say about anything until March 2022. That's when she first had the conversation. And Dolores clips to her confessional, like, what? I thought you didn't talk to her, or at least by DM. What are you talking about? Because I believe, the reunion was in 2023. So that means it was a lengthy time, but I guess it wasn't in 2021 when this stuff is being said it started, but I don't know exactly when that court date was, the original one. So, I think we're never really going to know the true exact dates, but nevertheless, one of the things I didn't mention was when the ladies were getting ready, there was a little bit of time with Margaret and her husband where, in additional to, basically saying, hey, some of these ladies I ain't going to see. And she basically lets him know, I got something that I got a little bit of something to drop, in regards to Jackie. So we're just going to wait. I'm going to let Jackie say what she needs to say because, the friendship between Margaret and Jackie is effectively over now, right? Because they were really close to the last few seasons before Jackie left the show and turncoat and with Teresa so she can gain favor, I believe. To get back on the show, to get her book a bestseller. Neither one of those things have happened thus far. But she still wants to tie into that because I think she was just wear down from not being a friend to her. Because if you remember, Jackie did say when she first came on the show that she actually liked Teresa. I guess Teresa didn't know that until she told her that. But by that time, they were arch enemies at this point. So, so that's what was going on at that moment. So they kept corping to Jackie in this moment too, as Margaret and Teresa were going back and forth about whether she talked to ex or not. Margaret then turns around and says, well, let me, lay down a kind of a thing to you and see if this makes sense to you about, how someone would go about, talking and everything. Because of course, with all the things that you guys had did or what was perceived to have been done, of course, we're going to defend ourselves and talk. But how do you feel about somebody having something, someone, meeting up with them or anything like that? And so Teresa's still kind of like a little lost in that conversation because she's so focused on Margaret. And so Margaret looks to Jackie and says, Jackie, do you have something you want to tell? Do you have something you want to tell Teresa? And it was like, everybody's looking around like, what does Jackie got to say? About what? Of course, panning to all the ladies on the table. And Jackie's like, what are you talking about, Margaret? And now she's going after Margaret and, being vicious back to her. And just, you have something to say. Like the fact that you had that lady over your house. You had the ex at your house. That was a bomb drop. Now that was a real tea. So Jackie apparently had the ex of Louis at her house to get dirt or whatever she needed to get on Louis, because this goes back, and we're just going to run through this real quick because this is already taking too long, right? Louis apparently, not Louis, Teresa had, was saying things about a rumor about, what's his name? Ed, I don't remember, but Jackie's husband, having an affair. So, small town, everything like that. A lot of people were asking about this question, and she was being targeted on this campaign to find women to come out and speak on if her husband, Edwin, I can't remember his name, if, he had really been cheating on her. So of course, Jackie was extremely upset. And if you had been watching the show during that time, a few seasons ago, before Jackie left the show, yes, there was a lot of tears being shed. She felt that she was being targeted. I think that that's most partly what was happening. And Teresa was at the helm of it, kind of passing on that tea. Did you hear? Did you know that apparently the rumor is that Jackie's husband is cheating on her and all this kind of stuff? Now, because that was happening, the ladies definitely hated each other. So she, she said, approached by the ex. The ex was like, look, I've got something I can give you that you can kind of keep in your pocket. And if, Louis comes back after you again, you can say to Teresa, well, this is what Louis did, right? I don't think we know yet what that was, but that's what was told. But she wanted to keep that to herself. So as this is going on, because this is her confessional, she's telling us, we're going back to the scene where she's denying that she never had that woman at her house. Everybody's asking her directly, Jackie, did you have her? Like, because Margaret did say this was on the heels of you hating each other. So in other words, it was okay if you did. It was okay to just tell the truth if it happened, because what was being said is that Margaret was the person and it really was Jackie, right? And so Melissa's asking Jackie, look, if it's true, you could just say it, because it's not like we can't find out. And Jackie's like, no, I didn't say it. I think Jennifer Aid even asked her, so you didn't know about this? Because Jackie was asked about it at the gathering at Teresa's home, about what she knew about Margaret and the ex situation, right? Remember that? We talked about that a little earlier. And so at the end of the day, if she knew about what was going on, she could have told us, right? And she denied it. Jackie said, no, I didn't know anything about anything. Well, of course she didn't know anything about anything, because it was all about her. And she was so afraid, apparently, to say anything. So as she's still denying at the table, and Melissa, I guess, is the one that struck the nerve to make her say, you might as well just tell the truth. So after she says, say, no, I didn't do it, she then looks, as the ladies are all talking amongst each other, looks at Teresa and says, I did. She did come to my house. And Teresa's like, huh? And she was, yeah, she did come to my house. And all of a sudden, all was forgiven. Now, we have all been watching. If you've been watching the show season after season after season after season after season with Teresa does not let go of things easily. When she feels hurt and betrayed, she feels hurt and betrayed. We've seen it with Jackie, not Jackie, Jacqueline, I should say, Jacqueline Loretta, who was her best friend, who they are now reconciled, which I'm happy to hear about that. Also the situation with Caroline Manzo. I think there might have been some ruffling going on with Dina. So whenever something is perceivably happened with Teresa in these relationships, she takes it to heart and she does not let it go. Even Danielle, for that most part, where she felt they were friends. And maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe she feels more inclined to be upset and angry and holding on to things when she feels like she actually cared about that individual. And for Jackie, as we all know, she was just using Jackie by her words, that she was only getting close to Jackie because she knew that she was a key to Margaret. And so, but what ended up happening in that moment of Jackie basically admitting to the fact that, yes, I was the one and it was at my house and that's where everything stemmed from. Teresa was so hell-bent that Margaret was the problem that all seemed to be forgiven over here because I need to still have an issue with Margaret. And there may be some other things that they can talk about, but this becomes a mute issue. And even Margaret says, this ain't about me anymore. If you're going to pin everything that the issues you have with me is about this situation, about contacting an ex, I'm not the one you have the problem with. Your good friend here, Jackie, is. She's the one that did that. Now, of course, all the other ladies saw what was damaging about that. Even Jennifer Aiden, which I was agree with Jennifer Aiden, like, wow, we gave you an opportunity to tell us the truth. And she's like, wow. And so Melissa goes to Jennifer Aiden and says, hey, look, now I need to know, do you see what I'm seeing here? And she's like, yeah, no, I see it. She goes, good, because I want to make sure you're still human. I wanted to make sure. She goes, oh, no, I see exactly what's going on. And she goes, and I personally think that, Teresa sometimes at the end of the day can react a little bit later after she's thought about everything. So she feels that, I don't know how she may feel when she kind of lets it all sit in, that this was not Margaret. This was Jackie all along. So, also when she was like, hey, no problem. I get it. It's fine. All of a sudden now it's fine. Melissa yells, we're not even over the sprinkle cookies, but yet this is okay. That she did this whole campaign against Louis, she was a part of, and you're okay with it. And, Margaret's the same thing. See, this is okay. This is all right. If it's not okay, if I have anything to do with anything, but I didn't have anything to do with this. Now, the issue also then stems with, because Jackie's now saying that, look, only thing I have is information, but that she didn't really do anything else with it, right? But the media situation that attached to it with this video that went out about him with his men group or something like that. It was some questionable things, I guess, that were on this video. They were saying that, Margaret is the one that put that stuff out in the media. Margaret's like, I don't even know how to put stuff out here like this. This wasn't me. I had nothing to do with any of this. And of course, Jennifer Aiden in her funny fashion, because sometimes Jennifer Aiden can be funny, says, look, what it appears is that Jackie basically took what Margaret did and then went over her head. She just like, it's one of those moments when the teacher becomes the student, right? But at this end of the point, Jackie gets a pass. She gets a pass. Now, how long is this pass going to last? I don't know. We've seen some Watch What Happened Live episodes where Jackie's basically said her and Teresa are still doing good and they're doing fine. I guess time will only tell, and we may not really get to see the full gamut of that situation. But yeah, that's where we're at on that. So as this all falls down, Dolores's face is done. Oh, and by the way, just to make mention as well, when the whole fight happened with Jennifer Aiden and Danielle, that was when Jeff Fessler said, I'm out. So she left, right? So just so you know, everybody, if you recall, or if you watched or you didn't, this is what happened. Jennifer Fessler left because she said, look, when you start throwing glass, because glass just get thrown, you start throwing glass, you start fighting, there's no room for this. I can't be around. This is disgusting. So she's gone. So she didn't even see the whole thing lay out. So at this point, it does Jennifer, she basically, Jacqueline basically says to Teresa, look, I was so afraid of it getting out that I was behind the situation. I didn't really know how to tell you, so I wasn't telling you, but I was so afraid to tell you because of how good things are going. And so she looked like she was really honestly scared to death. And so much so that Dolores makes a mention that, yeah, she looked like she's about to poop in her pants. I hope she got a diaper, right? So as this whole thing pretty much comes to a wrap at this point, there's not much else to talk about. There was a moment between Rachel and Teresa also. They're just not going to get along. They're just kind of going back and forth on the same things. Rachel basically tells Teresa, look, don't talk about my husband. She says it multiple times, do not talk about my husband, and she's like, well, look, I'm going to talk about your husband because you talked about my husband first. So that wasn't much more than that. And then of course, at this point, the lunch is over, right? The big reveal has happened. There's nothing else to say. Everybody feels like they're tired. They need a nap. And there's nothing more else to give. This was it. This was the swan song for the most part. And so everybody's kind of wrapping up. Margaret feels good about herself because it came out, right? She's promised that it was going to be more than just what she dropped the last time with the text to Dolores. It was going to be better than that. So it was. And yeah, I think that she did a great job. I think she did a great job. So it was Jackie all along. And it was so funny the way the ladies that came together about that. And this is why I feel like this show could still survive with the ladies. I mean, I'll get to that in just a second. So everybody's basically like, we're done. I guess it's time to go home. I think a couple ladies asked, can we go home now? Dolores like, yeah, we can go home. We've done, satisfied everything. So the ladies start to kind of go out one by one. And the ones that are left in the room are still Jackie, Teresa, Jennifer, Aid, and Dolores. And Jackie, kind of doing a kiss to Teresa, that I'm really sorry about blah, blah, blah. And Teresa's still I think she was a little bit gossip talked a little bit. Although I know she was saying that, look, it's okay because I tried to hurt her. She felt I was trying to hurt her family. So I get it and I understand why she did it. I do feel like if it was anybody else, that they wouldn't have gotten such a pass, honestly. I also do feel that it's not so much that she did it, but why keep lying about that you did it? If you did it, which you did, because now it's been admitted, why don't you tell the truth in the beginning? I mean, if the bottom line is, if you were so concerned about, and this is from Jackie's perspective, I'm afraid that you were going to find out about what's going on. Well, then you should have just told the truth. Just sort of said it, if we're talking about clean slate, I'm the person that did X, Y, and Z. Right. But I guess it wouldn't have made good for good TV. And I don't know how she thought that it wasn't going to get out. She should have really for sure thought it was going to get out after Margaret had revealed some of the text with the scum thing, to Dolores about what Jackie said about Dolores. And so Dolores is kind of a little done with Jackie anyways, right? She doesn't seem like we're going to be friends and I'm okay with it because, Jackie's a little bit of a sneaky link there, right? She's a little bit about a sleeky, when he says sneaky link, but she's a little slick, right? And of course, her being thrown as she was a lawyer gets thrown to her face that, apparently you would know all these things and how to get certain things out there the way that you want, not to mention that she's also a blogger too. So she's got resources, right? If she really wanted to hit that media circuit without that information, but that's to be said, whoever put that out there, we won't know. So again, the ladies are going outside waiting on their cars. As Jackie's leaving, and she does finally leave that area, as she's trying to kiss Teresa goodbye, Dolores and apologize. Dolores like, don't say nothing else. I'm just saying anything else. I mean, it's out there. She's apparently fine with it. It's cool. Because even in that moment, she was like trying to stop Teresa as all the yelling is going on. Ask her, are you okay? Did you just hear something that you just heard what Jackie just revealed, right? Are you good? She said, yeah, I'm good. So at the same time, she's still apparently good. I think she was still shocked because she really wanted to be Margaret. But she's shocked. So as Jackie leaves, she basically says to Jennifer and Teresa, she's pooping in her pants. And I hope she has a diaper in that car because she is scared out of her mind about the ramifications of what's going to happen, right? So it was pretty funny how that went down. It really was pretty funny. So as the lady was sitting outside, we got Danielle, Jennifer. Is it Jennifer Aiden out there? No, not Jennifer Aiden. I think it was Danielle, Rachel Fuda, Melissa, and Margaret. And they all seem to be doing okay outside as the reveal has happened. And, basically Daniel's like, how did Bo Dietl not figure that out, right? How did Bo Dietl not know that Jackie was the one behind it? How did he miss that private investigator? And Margaret said, because nobody thought of anything about her. Said, wow, nobody was suspicious of her. It's like, wow, Danielle said, we got to watch out for those quiet ones, right? And of course, we see that as Danielle's kind of going off in the sunset, waiting for her car without anybody and trying to avoid turning the corner to stand with the ladies while they wait for their cars. And they notice that. And, but she goes off onto her own and that's that. So it was really, really funny. So everybody basically continues to start to leave. Teresa and Jennifer get ready to go as well. They thank Teresa for sure, Aid and Jennifer does. Thanks Dolores for the meal, the opportunity to get together to talk. And she was this was crazy, right? But she said, yeah, you did a good job. And she said, look, I did the best I could do because at the end of the day, life is too short. And Jennifer's like, yeah, well, you did good. We're going home now. So everybody's leaving. Dolores is left at the table. Dolores is, in retrospect, is talking to us about, how she really did try to come to a resolve with the situation. But the bottom line is it doesn't seem like it's happening. In her professional, she says, the ladies were always like a family. And at this point, it doesn't feel like they are. It looks like Teresa's the only person that took that beautiful bouquet place situation with her, which I don't know why the other ladies didn't, because they were really pretty. Maybe because so much was going on and you think about it, but Teresa had hers, for the most part, she feels like, things are kind of at a standstill. Doesn't see that there was much resolved here. Doesn't think that there's much place to go from here. This is probably the beginning of the end, if not this the end, period. No one knows how this is going to go, how this is going to move forward for the ladies. And so, and then Dolores rides off to the sunset. And then we get the clips of what's going to happen in the so-called together mashed up reunion, which I'm here for. And I'm definitely going to recap and review it. It's supposed to be a nice little sit down with the ladies, reviewing the things that happen. And I guess talking about with the ladies they're friendly with and not being forced to be in a room with people they don't want to talk to. So my goodness, this was such a meaty episode. It was, again, in my opinion, one of the best season finales I've seen in a long time. I really do appreciate you hanging out and listening to the recap and review. I want to know your thoughts about it all. So let me know what you think down below. How do you feel about this? Do you think that there's a place in which RHO and J can keep moving forward with the ladies they have? Do you think some people are going to have to go? Who do you think those people should go? Do you think bringing somebody new in, anyone particular, maybe a previous housewife, if that would be a good way to start? Do you think there should be a full reboot of this situation, or do you think they should just make some moves with a couple of ladies here or there? Me personally, I like the cast. I mean, honestly, Jennifer Aiden gets on my nerves a lot of the time, but there's certain moments that I like about her. I don't like when she goes too far, but I do like the fact, Danielle stands up for herself really well and she addresses things, and I appreciate that. I love Danielle. I think she's great. I didn't know how I felt about her when she first came on the scene, but she is really, I like her so far. I like Rachel. I like Dolores. I mean, I like all the ladies, even Jen Fessler and her scary self. Because I can understand, look, sometimes you just can't be sitting up in that dark energy all the time. So I get that from her. And I feel like it's a real feeling from her. And I like Margaret. And I like how the ladies stand up for themselves and they talk. And I still feel like there is a family dynamic there. The only real issue I feel is the situation between Teresa and Melissa. And I just don't know what to say about that, because I like both ladies. I really do. I think that the show suffers with either one of them gone and one of them staying here, or both of them being gone. I wish they could find a way to come together, so at this point the show is on hiatus. I think there's rumors that it might come back in 2025, or filming may start in 2025. So there's some time there for some kind of conversation to be had. Even I know Melissa's been asked on Watch What Happens Live what happened. Do they feel like there could be some kind of reconciliation between the two? And they're no, even if there was no show or the show stopped and they went on there, they still would not be cool. So much there. But yeah, we're just hoping that these ladies find a way, that they find a way to get back together. Because I think it's a shame. Quite frankly, I think Jackie could stay a friend of the show or not be on the show at all. I feel very different about Jackie. I used to really like Jackie. When Jackie first came on the scene, I liked Jackie. I like Jackie a lot. But now I don't know about Jackie. Jackie, to me, I don't know if she could be trusted too much. I get why she did what she did, and I understand it. I mean, wrong is wrong, but whatever the case may be, your family you felt was being attacked. Things were happening behind the scenes. You knew about it, and so you need to get back at Teresa, and this was a way to do it. But my issue is, why not just tell the truth about it, right? You're supposed to be on this clean slate. So tell the truth. So if you're trying to say that, no, I wanted to be your friend, and it wasn't because this book I was getting out here, and it's not because I want to get back on the show, I think, quite frankly, at doing it the way you did it, you make it look like that's all it was here for, that this is not a true reconciliation for you. And do I think that a true reconciliation could have happened between the two? Of course. I just feel like, why didn't you? We're grown here, right? I mean, you guys are women, not children. Why not? You know, some might act like it, but you know, at the end of the day, why not have just said, look, hey, I was the one, okay? And if we're gonna have this clean slate friendship and we're really go, I think you need to know what really went down. It wasn't Margaret, it was me. You know, this is what happened. And the reason why this happened is because of this. But I guess somebody said, well, then there wouldn't be a show. There wouldn't be this grand reveal, right? Maybe to some extent, there may not be a reason for Teresa not to like Margaret if this is all centered around that one thing. And because of that reveal also is why I think we may hear a little bit of why Louis comes back and has something to say about his thoughts about what he wished upon Margaret's family. And also knowing what Margaret's family is going through, with Joe, her husband, and everything else, it was really not a cool thing to say. So, he, I think, he probably feels really, really bad about that. And yeah, we'll see what happens as far as if he will have a moment. And I think that if they could do some behind the scenes work, maybe there's a way that all the ladies can come back into a situation where it can be a healthier thing. You're still going to have drama, and it's okay to have the drama. It's how far things go, and going out to other people to try to attack them, I think is not going to be a winning method to keeping this cast, or any cast for that matter, alive. And I think that, keeping things to the show is going to be the best way to go. But trying to end people and their reputations, all this stuff is just not really going anywhere. And it's not fun. After a while, we as viewers get tired of looking at that. Some of this stuff is no rhyme or reason. And to be upset at somebody just to be upset with them is not okay either, right? I mean, we're going to get tired of that after a while. So yeah, I personally feel like there is room still, and maybe I'm just an optimistic person, but I feel like there's still room for the ladies to get back together. I think there's still room for these ladies to exist, but how and when, I don't know. I don't know, because it's just so much going on. But again, definitely leave your thoughts below. Make sure also too, if you are interested and you enjoyed the recap and review, go ahead and give the video a like. I'd appreciate it. As well as if you are new here and you haven't yet subscribed, I hope that you will choose to subscribe and be part of the family. I would love to have you. Subscribing is free. So go ahead and do that and be a part of the family. Let me know your thoughts, your respectful thoughts in the comment section. Let me know about what you thought about the show, any of the aspects about the show, the storylines, everything all about the season finale, how you think about it, what you think about it, all the things we just covered here. Just let me know your thoughts below. I would love to know that. And we've been here for a little bit. So I am going to be looking to hopefully drop another video because I owe you those RHOCs 2, 3, and 4 episodes. So I'm going to try my hardest to get number 2 out, review recap, and then 3 and then 4. And now we were ready for tomorrow's episode as well, since it's Wednesday. And yeah, it is Wednesday, isn't it? And yeah, and it is so hot. My God, like anytime we get like a little reprieve, it just feels like it just changes. But yeah, I hope that you are doing well. And again, I really appreciate you being here. So with that, I think I'm going to bid you adieu. But this was a great, great way to end the season. It got all of the greatness of old school Real Housewives in it, irregardless of what was said. We had drama, we had intensity, we had revelations that no one expected. So I enjoyed it. I hope you did. And I hope you enjoyed the recap review. Again, take care, be safe. And until next time, make sure you leave those notification bells on so you know next time that I drop a video. But I will see you next time. Bye.